Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and this is what is it? Patron Hangout number 187. Yes, I want to welcome everybody who is in the chat room, and those I haven't said hello to yet. Frida, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing your name right, Frida. And Lila is now here. I think I've said, okay, I've said hello to most of you. So if you'd like to be in the chat room, however, for any of my shows, please do click the link below to Patreon, join Patreon, and you can come to the live shows. I have 2 live shows a week, this hangout like this. And on the weekends, I do the case show where I analyze a specific case, and you can be there for that. But if you don't want to support me on Patreon, which is just $5 a month, do subscribe to the channel. That helps as well. And all of my content is available publicly. I don't keep anything hidden. So yeah, I like people to learn. Okay, Felicity just rolled in. Oh, okay. Watch the Karen Reed documentary on your recommendation. Pat, it was good, but God, I disliked the defense team. Well, what was interesting about that documentary, which I was incredibly pleased by, as opposed to like Making a Murderer that was done by Netflix, which was a completely one-sided defense production that Netflix promoted as even keeled, balanced. No, it wasn't. And a lot of people fell for it because it was so one-sided. They didn't get the point that the prosecution was kind of missing in the whole thing, and all the truth was missing. But in this Karen Reed documentary, Body in the Snow, it's called. It's on Max, and I saw it via Prime Video, and it was very fair on both sides. They presented each side. Now, the prosecution always has a problem that they cannot put their prosecutor up there and they cannot actually participate. The defense can do whatever the damn well please. So that's why the defense always has an advantage in these things. However, they brought in some really good spokespeople on the side of the prosecution, including a fabulous defense attorney, which shocked me because he was my favorite guy. So if you want to watch mine, if I remember, I'll link it below. I did a commentary on the documentary, and this defense attorney, who was actually focused on the truth, was amazing. So not all defense attorneys only can support a defense. If you're doing commentary, you should be able to, as an attorney, be able to support both sides, in the sense that if this side is more accurate and you think this is true, you could support this. If this side is more accurate, you think this is true, you could support that. You should be able to do that, because if it's not your case, you don't have to be a lying dog. you can speak the truth. But I really liked the documentary, and I have a lot of issues about liking documentaries because I've participated in enough of them to know that oftentimes they're very disingenuous, and I'm not happy with them. So, yeah. So, but I thought it was really, but yeah. Felicity says, I just like the defense team because of their misrepresentation of certain facts. Of course, they're the defense team, that making out that the, quote, undetermined manner of death was huge and that the prosecution didn't know how he died. It's the defense. They also say there's a massive conspiracy, like every single person who was in the house that John supposedly walked into, which he never did. All of those people are lying dogs. And on top of that, everybody's a lying dog. All the police, all the people that were in the house, the EMTs, everybody. And on top of that, they planted a ton of evidence. It's so stupid because they didn't. A lot of these people didn't even know Karen Reed. They didn't have any reason to want to do in Karen Reed, or they would risk their entire careers and end up going to prison for lying and planting evidence for some woman they didn't even know. I mean, it's just nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. And yet, I'll start with this for my show then. So the Karen Reed trial is just started again. And so Karen Reed, again, watch my video on when she did the documentary. She said things in that documentary which is going to be able to use in the new trial, which she changes her story, and she says things that implicate her. So I think it's amazing. I would love the documentary because she implicated herself. So I don't have a complaint. So anyway, this is Karen Reed. Okay. I do love that. I will say this. Okay. That is a terrible, terrible moment in Karen Reed on the video where she looks horrifyingly scary and mean and whatever. I will just say this. I have pictures of me that look like that, and people use them against me as well. So just to say that, because there's picture of me going, or and my haters will definitely use this. And I don't like Karen Reed, so I'm using that anyway. But just to be honest. Okay. So yeah, so the Karen Reed trial is coming up. They've just selected the this whole thing is so weird to me. The part that's weird to me is that I think they should have moved the trial out of where it is, and they did not. They have the same judge, which the defense, okay, the free Karen Reed people who think Karen is innocent and just the loveliest person ever, they call the judge anti-Bev, which I find insulting and unnecessary. I've always thought it was not okay to nickname people and then disparage them in that way. Like, I don't want to be called Profiler Patty. Oh, did I just give somebody an idea? Nobody's ever called me that, but I've just screwed myself. They're going to call me Profiler Patty now. I mean, I've been called a lot of names, and I want them to say, I don't like a criminal profiler, Pat Brown. I think I don't agree with her analyses. I think she's incompetent. Whatever you want to say about me, fine. But when you put those little nicknames on, I just hate those nicknames. And I don't care. It's the same thing is done with politics, where one names different people, give them little nasty names. I just think it's disgusting. If you don't approve of a person's political views or their how they're handling things, or if you don't approve of a prosecutor or whatever, just don't give them stupid little names. Karen Reed, to me, is Karen Reed. I personally do not terribly much. She comes across very poorly to me as a highly narcissistic human being, but I'm not going to give her a silly little name. I think that's, I will show the picture though. Wait, the wrong picture. Sorry. Okay. Now I'm a little bit snarky, but just because she did present herself terribly in the documentary, and she put herself in that documentary, and she's being criticized for it because her defense team should never have allowed it. She shouldn't have done it, but she's highly narcissistic, in my opinion. So she doesn't see the fallout it's going to cause. They can use every bit of this in the trial. But anyway, I wish they had moved the trial to another location. I do wish they'd changed the judge, not because I think the judge was unacceptable, but because the free Karen Reed people have spent so much time trashing her. I would just like to see a completely different judge and a completely different venue. I would like to see that. It didn't happen. They're going through the jury people now. Let me see if I can find where they're at with the jury. Hold on a second. Where is it? Okay. Last week I started not being able to find my stuff. I'm back there this week. Anyway, I think they have 7 jurors so far, but majority of the jurors said, yes, I know about this trial. Some said they couldn't be honest, in the deliberations. This bugs the heck out of me because we're talking about a civilian jury. I don't like civilian jury system. And the problem is, even if these people are trying to do their best, they have been so heavily influenced by the internet, and the free Karen Reed people have inundated the internet, and they stand out. They in the last trial, they stood outside and screamed stuff. When the jury was trying to deliberate, they were like, free Karen Reed, it was unbelievable. So the judge has put a perimeter, but you cannot come and do that. And now supposedly they're fighting back against that because they think the free care and read people think they should have the right to stand right next to the courthouse and intimidate the jury, which they did in the last, they intimidated the jury so much the last time around. I would not want to be on that jury. The first thing I would say is, I'm not going to be on this jury because I don't want to be threatened by these free care and read people. They have, free care and read have really caused, I can't understand how people think this is okay. If they want a real trial, a fair trial, they've done everything they can to destroy a fair trial. Now, they think it's okay because they think, well, they're claiming that there's a big conspiracy and poor Karen Reed is being, she's being railroaded. So they can do anything they please, including threaten the jury, go after the witnesses, all the horrible things they do. But in doing so, they've actually, they're taking away what is considered, should be considered a fair trial. And so I wish it was moved. I wish it was a gag order so that the trial could go on peacefully behind closed doors. That's what I would like to see. But I think it's a freaking mess. I don't think it's going to get better on the second time around, except that that documentary might help nail Karen Reed. Let me check some of your comments on this. Should the jury be sequestered? I mean, I know you're saying sequestered. There's nothing like typing. I like them to be squashed as well. Sequestered. Well, they already know everything. It's been all over the internet ad nauseum. There's nobody who is in that area who doesn't know everything. And now a documentary about the case has come out prior to the second trial. This is nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. But I do want to read a really great princess sent me this commentary, and I thought it was really interesting, and apply it to this case. She said, Pat, I just watched this show last night, East Idaho News, which is following the Lori Vallow Daybell trial in Arizona, which I'm not following because I can't stand any more about her. I know she's a psychopath. I know what she did, and I'm just not. I know a lot of people find it interesting to watch, but as a profiler who has limited time, I could care less. Anyway, she said, quote, a conspiracy to commit murder of her former husband, Charles Vallow. They have seated a jury already. Interesting to note, your favorite topic, RE, 12 people off a bus stop, which is my saying, which a lot of people take offense to. Anyway, at least in Arizona, they are a little better for the treatment of jurors. I guess Arizona has a fund that people can apply for if their job does not reimburse them for jury duty. This is cool. Jurors can be reimbursed up to $300 a day through this, quote, juror fund. Plus the $12 a day plus reimbursement for mileage. I believe they get lunch. Yeah. If you want to eat that lunch, okay, bring your own. That makes it possible for working people to serve jury duty for 5 to 6 weeks. If their employer doesn't reimburse, I guess one can't be fired for doing jury duty, supposedly not. Although with today's employers, who knows? Yeah, she's right about that. They could always try to find a creative way to fire people. Absolutely. The schedule for jurors is more reasonable for these long trials. Court is 10:30 a.m. to 12 noon, 90-minute lunch. Wow. You could actually go someplace and eat a decent meal. 1:30 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. That's so you're talking about 1.5 hours in the morning, 3.5 hours in the afternoon, 3 hours in the afternoon. Monday through Thursday with Fridays off. That's a much better schedule. Yes, it is. They discuss, I think people deserve to be paid. Yes. The only person I know who served on a long jury was a retired speech pathologist. She worked in the school system. She could only do a long jury because she was already retired. This is sometimes true because, I'm not retired, but I can move my schedule around. But a lot of retired people don't mind doing jury duty because they're bored, and they're not working. What the hell? But some people who have children and working, it really screws their lives up. She said this. She talked about how emotionally draining the trial was. Some of these trials are very heavy topics. It's a lot to ask of people to volunteer for $12 a day. They're not volunteering. They're being blackmailed and threatened that they better damn well show up for jury duty or they're going to be imprisoned. That's not volunteering. There is no volunteer things. What you have is you get the notice, and you damn well better show up and be vetted for whether you can be on the jury or not. You better show up. And of course, smart people sometimes just trash the stuff and say, I never got the paperwork. Other people show up and just say things like, I love the death penalty. And they get out, or they just act weird, and they get out of it. But in reality, the government is saying you better show up or you can be imprisoned. That's not volunteerism. Okay, that's not. It's more like, the war is going on and you get the little note that says you better show up, or you better run to Canada. Back in the old the days of Vietnam, you weren't volunteering for anything. You're being drafted. Well, you're being drafted for a jury duty as well, and they don't vet you as to whether you are appropriate for jury duty, whether you have the emotional ability to make it through this jury duty. They don't give a crap. They just go there. So she says here, some of these trials are very heavy topics. They are. There's some gruesome stuff in these trials, which regular people, as much as they're watching all the crap on TV, cannot handle the reality of, and it's horrifying, especially when it comes down to children being sexually assaulted, brutal murders. I mean, yeah, it's a lot to ask of people to volunteer for $12 a day, even if they feel good about doing their civic duty. Yes, it is. I find it atrocious, absolutely atrocious. And again, I would be okay with being on a professional jury because I can handle everything they can throw at me. I've seen it all. I've seen all the stuff. I've dealt with all the horror and all that kind of things. I can sit there and you can talk about a tragic crime, even a child. Does it affect me? I'm not heartless. Yes. Do I say, oh, that's horrifying? Yes. But because it's my professional job, I'm able to take my feelings, put them over here, and then deal with it. But a lot of human beings cannot do that. And they shouldn't have to do that because they're normal human beings. They're not weird like me. You've been in this business a long time. You can handle a lot of stuff. But regular people, I don't want to see those people go through that. And I think the fact that they are forced into jury duty, they're forced into it, I think is atrocious. So with the Karen Reed case, it's not as gruesome as all that. I mean, John O'Keefe being hit by a vehicle and ending up dead, freezing to death on the front lawn would disagree. But still, there's so much involved in this case. I would not want to be a juror. I would be afraid to be a juror. I think that, my God, if I, the free Karen Reed people are going to come after me. I won't be able to take my children to the soccer game because they'll be there. So the whole thing is a nightmare, and it is exactly what we don't want the American jury system, trial system to be. And so the free Karen Reed people, you people are disgusting. You should let your defense attorneys do their job. But the free Karen Reed people have taken it along with turtle crap, taken it to the internet, and then taken it to out in the real world and harassing people and shouting things. And you're disgusting human beings. Sorry, I'm done with you guys. You can believe she's innocent. I don't have a problem with that. But when you take it to the streets and to the internet with the nastiness that you have done, you are actually destroying the jury system that you supposedly approve of. So okay, I'm going to control myself. Anyway, wait a minute. Oh, Felicity, I read that wrong. I'm clicked on it. I went, I did some meth yesterday. Oops. Anyway, you did some math yesterday. Okay, I really don't want to discuss the actual details of the whole case. We'll get in a whole side thing. But I'm glad you didn't do any meth yesterday. Oh, Turtle Boy is a piece of, he's a, I don't want to use the P word, but he would probably qualify. He's a nasty piece of work. Let's put it that way. And he's done a lot of damage. And it's just horrifying. math. Maybe I should try it. Oh my God. Can anyone refuse to serve? This is a great question, Christoph. Can anyone refuse to serve on a jury in the USA without cheating? Well, it's very difficult because here's what happened for me. So a lot of times I never received the paperwork. And but one time I got the paperwork and I put on the paperwork, I am a criminal profiler, and as a criminal profiler, I disagree with the civilian jury system. I only believe in a professional jury system, and I do not want to serve with 11 other people off a bus stop who know nothing about, who have no training in forensics and criminal profiling and all that stuff. They let me out. The last time I sent the same thing in, they said, "Oh no, too bad." And then I'm like, seriously, you won't let me out? Because I know the defense attorney is not going to let me on the jury. It's just going to be a waste. I'm going to go down to the courthouse. I'm going to sit there. The defense attorney is going to say, like, an excuse in like 3 seconds because I'm a profiler. Right? He's never going to let me on the jury. But then the lady on the other end of the phone said, "Aren't you turning 70? Okay, we'll just postpone this, and then you don't have to do it because you'll be over 70. So, some advantage for being older. Yeah. He's a militant. He's not a militant Karen Reed supporter. He's a person who is making a ton of money and getting a ton of clicks on his YouTube channel. He's also up for. He's also been charged with stuff, and I hope he goes to jail. I do. Yeah, the jury system's the same here in the UK. I believe the American system was originally modeled on ours. It probably was. And once upon a time, maybe it was more effective. But now that everything has gotten so scientific and stuff people can't even begin to understand, it's turned into a nightmare. And I just think we have to change it. But nobody, but many people do not agree with me. And they say, oh, if you have a professional jury system, and clearly the government is just going to railroad everybody. And the reason we have a civilian jury system is to be fair. Personally, I don't want to be in front of a civilian jury system. I don't. I'd rather have a five-member professional jury that can look at the actual evidence. I don't want a bunch of really maybe nice people who are going to determine things based on guesswork because they don't understand. Most of those people, maybe one will understand, but the rest will not understand. They will not have a clue because they haven't studied this stuff. They will guess their way through the trial. They'll fall asleep for half of it. They'll be confused by all the stupid experts that say opposite things. They're going to do their best under the conditions that they're in. But I find it just appalling. So anyway, I'm going to stop that. Well, I will say, I'll give her a comment here. Pat, I totally agree with you. Okay, thank you. Okay, moving along. got a little stuck on that. I want to mention this just because this makes me laugh. So this is God. His Spartanburg County Sheriff Chuck Wright he's been in office since 2004, 20 years. But now the Spartanburg County Council has reined in Sheriff Chuck Wright's spending after a Post and Courier investigation. Post and Courier is a local media outlet in Spartanburg area of South Carolina. This piece of crap, and I do call it a piece of crap, because I worked with his department. I flew to Spartanburg. I worked on the Superbike case, the murder of 4 people in a motorcycle shop. I was brought in. I worked with that sheriff's department for a week. They gave me all the information. They gave me all the boxes. I went through everything, and I said, here is my number one suspect. And I said, I see problems with this case that don't add up. I actually did some, one time I did the question was the last customer at this motorcycle shop, could he have committed the crime? And I actually got in my vehicle and I did test runs to see how fast you could get from point A to point B. And I made sure I had a clear road in front of me, and then I hauled ass down these country roads to see if I could make it. I did things like that. I asked many questions like, did you ever check this? Did you check that? I found it was a very poor investigation, that the number one suspect, in my opinion, was the guy who called 911. He found his friends dying, and everything he said was questionable. So I presented him as my number one suspect. And they basically just blew me off after that week. Well, later on, it came out that good old Chuck, this is Sheriff Chuck Wright, who I call Sheriff Wrong. He came out on television and made a statement that I knew was a complete lie. So I spoke up because I'm like, you can't lie to the public like this and get on camera and lie. So I said that is not true. And then he got on camera and said, that lady, Pat Brown, she doesn't know anything about this case that she hasn't read on the internet. Now, mind you, I'd been there for a week in his own sheriff's department, sitting inside the department. They gave me all the evidence, or at least as much as they were willing to. Maybe they left something out, but I was there for a week. And then he had the gall to say, I never been there. So he said, I only read it on the internet. So then I did a bunch of blogs and they were all called, I read it on the internet. And I said, well, the guy came in the shop as I read on the internet, and he shot these people as I read on the internet. People kept wondering why I was saying, why are you saying as I read on the internet, the whole thing? But anybody who knew what the true story was laughing, because they knew as I read on the internet was just a joke, because I've seen the files. At that point, I didn't feel a lot of, shall we say, I owed them a lot of anything at that point, because that guy's a lying dog. So what happened was, years later, there was a guy named Todd Kohlhepp, and Todd Kohlhepp was caught for serial homicides. He's a real estate agent, and he was caught with a woman in a container in the back of his property. They arrested him for what was basically a serial homicide. He's a serial killer. I never objected. Todd Kohlhepp's a serial killer. But the day after they arrested him, this piece of crap comes out and says, oh, well, Todd Kohlhepp's confessed to the mass murder in a motorcycle shop. 4 people murdered. I'm like, it would be extremely rare that a serial killer would commit a mass murder. It's like 2 different types of crimes. I'm like, what? And I've never heard of Todd Kohlhepp. He was in none of the records, no place. Well, he confessed, and in return for confessing, he got a plea deal not to get the death penalty. And on top of that, the thing that drove me the most nuts was they put out, and this was in, I forgot which, all the media outlets, but like 48 Hours, I don't know which one did it. I can't remember, but they actually put out a story about this, because it was a very exciting story. We've caught not only a serial killer, but we've solved a crime that's 20 years old, the Superbike mass murders, because this man, Todd Kohlhepp, knew something only the police knew, that all the victims were shot in the forehead. And because everybody's like, oh my God, he knew that, and he has to be the guy. And I'm like, but I've seen the autopsy reports. No one was shot in the forehead. What the hell? I knew that was a lie. And I knew everything else he said was a lie too. So I went to the media and I said, look, this is some of the media people that I actually know. I went to them and said, hey, this is a lie. No one would touch it, because they had their story. And that's why I don't trust the media. And I'm very, very down on the media, because they don't care about the truth. They care about how good the story is. And everybody was happy with the Todd Kohlhepp story. They didn't want to hear anything otherwise. So I did this video. You can watch it. It's called "The Superbike Mass Murder Has Not Been Caught: The False Confession of Todd Kohlhepp." And watch that. I'll remember to link it below, hopefully. But I worked on that case. I know what's true and what isn't true. But this piece of crap, Sheriff Chuck Wrong, here's a lying dog and a crook. I said that he was a lying dog and a crook from the beginning. I went for FOIA requests to get the information that I wanted to then prove some stuff. I spent $900 on it, and I got nothing. They robbed me of that. Trey Gowdy, by the way, is his best buddy. Trey Gowdy is also a scumbag. I will say that right here. But what happened now is the FBI is now investigating Chuck Wright, because he's got $53,000, I think, of credit card charges that had nothing to do with work, that he used the taxpayers' money so he could do things like get massages and stuff like that. They found out he's lied about a whole bunch of other things. So the house of cards is falling down, and now he's gone into rehab. I love how people run into rehab like, oh, well, I'll pretend I was like an alcoholic at the time. dude, you've been out here for 20 years as a lying piece of crap. And a lot of people in Spartanburg know damn well that's true. But I'll have to say that I woke up, was it yesterday morning? I woke up yesterday morning with emails us coming in going, yes, yes, yes. And so it made my day. Not that it's going to, I would like them to go back and review how Todd Kohlhepp got this plea deal, which is phony. I would, based on a lie. I would like to see that done. Do I believe it's going to happen? No. Do I wish it would be done? Yes, because the real killer is still out there, and it's not Trey. It's not Todd Kohlhepp. Todd Kohlhepp's a serial killer. He's in prison where he belongs. I don't care if he stays there for the rest of his life. He's a serial killer, but he's not a mass murderer. And the person who went in and killed 4 people, I think, is still out there. So, yeah. It's amazing how many people go into rehab as soon as they're accused of a whole bunch of stuff, because people feel sorry for people who have substance abuse problems. Substance abuse doesn't make you a psychopath. Okay. It doesn't. It might be part of your lifestyle, but it doesn't make you a psychopath. If you're not a psychopath, you're not a psychopath. You could be a drunk, you could be a pain in the ass, but you're not a psychopath. But people run quickly into rehab because it makes people feel sorry for them and gives them an excuse for all their behaviors. So, yeah. Speaking of weird things like that, somebody asked me to talk about this. Okay. This is, hold on a second. I'm trying to get my stuff up here. Baby Reindeer. Somebody asked me what I thought about Baby Reindeer. And I said, this is it came out last year, April or something. And I tried to watch it. And immediately I thought, I'm being manipulated. And I couldn't stand it. I hated it. And I stopped watching it. However, people love that series on Netflix. They say it's the most honest, most open, most wonderful series Netflix has ever put out. So why did I have an immediate reaction that I thought it was mostly a lie? And here's what. Okay, so the guy's name is is it a true story? And so if you see this one here, the true story behind Baby Reindeer. Now, Netflix claimed it was a true story. That's their claim. It's a true story. Now, I don't mind the guy who promoted this story as much as I mind that Netflix put it out as a true story. Why did they say that when there's not proof it's an absolutely true story? They did it because it made them a crap load of money. And again, just like Making a Murder, they're not into honesty. Now, I just loved Adolescence. That was made by Netflix as well. Adolescence was a fiction story that was brilliant. I'm good with that. I'm not saying everything Netflix puts out is bad, but a lot of these documentary things, I don't think they give one crap about the truth of it. Now, Baby Reindeer was not a documentary. It was what they call I won't call it fictionalized version of the real story, but basically they're reenacting what this guy says happened. All right, so the story is this: Baby Reindeer, maybe this is from People magazine, maybe fictionalized. You think? If it's fictionalized, do not call it a true story. Just get out of there. But it is based on true events that happened in creator Richard Gadd's life. Okay. True events. What does that mean? True events, in other words, just because a certain thing happened is true. If you exaggerate it, let's say, okay, it's the old fishing story. So, I went fishing and I caught the biggest trout ever could be caught. But actually, what do you call those? Yeah, it's only actually this big. But I said it was this big. Is it a true story? You did go fishing. You did catch a fish, but you made up the rest of it. You exaggerated to the point where it's completely bogus. So, I was in Hollywood. That's a true story. I dated while I was in Hollywood. That's a true story. Do you want to hear about all the hot actor men I dated when I was there? Sure you do. I didn't date any hot actors. I didn't date any hot actors. I didn't date Burt Reynolds. I didn't date George Clooney. I didn't date any of those guys. But just because I'm in Hollywood doesn't give me the right to say I dated the people that I didn't actually date. So it's based on a true story. She went to Hollywood and she dated. Is doesn't make it true. And once you revere from facts, it's nothing but a lie. You want to, in other words, make a fiction story. If I want to write a fiction story about Hollywood, and I want to make the story about not Pat Brown, but Pamela Smith, Pamela Smith goes to Hollywood, and I use some of my experiences to generate the story. That does happen. When I wrote my book, Only the Truth, which took place in Arkansas, and is about a man who is he's had a very simple life. He lives in the mountains, and he ended up living alone for many years. And he's just a very simple guy. And a girl pops up on the railroad tracks, and he likes her, and he brings her home, and she's kind of questionable as a human being. And he's a simple guy, and she's possibly a psychopath, but he doesn't know. He loves her, and the story goes on from there. And there is a homicide involved. Now, I've based some of that story on people I really know. The lead character in the story is based on my ex-husband and a fellow that I knew who lived in my house. It was a mix. There's a woman in the story who is a little bit like my mother-in-law. I adored her. She's like kind of my mother-in-law. And there's a let's see, I think he's a police chief. And I kind of based him on The Rock. And I actually said I love The Rock to play the part, and he responded to me, and he said, "Is there any action?" I'm like, not really. He goes, ah. So I actually got a response from him. This was funny. So different parts of this story were mixed up. So from different people that I knew, and the girl too. I knew some people that I took pieces of it. But the guy that played the part wasn't my ex-husband. And he wasn't the guy in my that I rented the room to in my house. He was just a mix of something. So yes, you use your own life experiences in things. By the way, I've never been to Arkansas, and people said I nailed it. I nailed it, and it felt like it was right down there. I'm like, go figure. That was lucky. But in a fiction story, yes, you can include stuff from your life. As long as you say it's 100% fiction, it's not meant to be considered true. And you don't want to get so close to the truth that you basically are taking a person and putting them 100% in the story and just changing their name. Then basically, you're presenting that person as a real person. So Baby Reindeer may not be fictionalized, but it's based on the true events that happened in creator Richard Gadd's life. Now, the first thing I thought as soon as I watched this was, he's an unreliable narrator. If you know what an unreliable narrator is, it's kind of a cool methodology. And I have a new book coming out relatively soon, if I get it done, which has an unreliable narrator. The whole book is done from his perspective. I went out here, I did this is what happened to me. The question is he telling you the truth? Or is he slightly manipulating things? Because he's an unreliable narrator. And that's a fiction story. And this is supposed to be fictionalized, but a true story. But you still have a guy who I think is an unreliable narrator. We don't know how much of what he's saying is true. And I didn't believe him from the get-go. I'm like, I'm not buying that one. He's got, in my opinion, Richard Gadd was a comedian, did stand-up stuff. And then he's brilliant in this film as far as how he, the creation of the character in the film. And people love it because I guess to them, it's a very interesting film. And if I could believe it, maybe I'd be more happy about it. But I immediately didn't trust him. And I think he's got severe personality disorder. And I think he's created a history for himself where he's the victim. And then you can feel sorry for him, and he can make a shitload of money. And he also ends up feeling sorry for the people who abused him, which I find disingenuous, but a lot of people watching go, "Oh, he's such a kind person." I'm like, "Oh my God, you're so falling for garbage." But anyway, that's my opinion. Anyway, the comedian plays a version of himself named Danny Dunn in the show, and it recounts his experience of being stalked by a middle-aged woman he calls Martha. Though he changed some events, quote, slightly to create dramatic climaxes, slightly, probably off a cliff. The story is resoundingly true. What do you mean resoundingly true? Because you feel it's resoundingly true? This is what he says. This to me, if I'm doing statement analysis, this is a biggie. It's very emotionally true. What the hell is emotionally true? It's how I feel. How you feel does not make something true. It just makes it the way you feel or the way you want people to feel you feel. It's not proof of any damn thing at all. It was very emotionally true. I'd say that's red flag. Obviously. I was severely stalked, and severely abused. Okay, so there's two parts. He's severely stalked by a middle-aged woman and severely abused by a person he's having a relationship with, that he claims he was groomed, person in the industry was groomed, and he was raped by. And then there were a lot of drugs involved, and then they got together many times. So I'm going to say you like doing drugs and having sex. Well, all right. According to everybody else, he was horribly abused. All right. But we wanted it to exist in the sphere of art as well as protect the people it's based on. So when you put something in the sphere of art, basically you're changing the truth. So if you just want to call it a fiction story, I wouldn't have had a problem with it. But you can't call it true and then call it in a sphere of art. Artistic license is not permitted with truth. Artistic license is for fiction. As well as protect the people it's based on. Apparently, it was so poorly covered, so poorly done that internet sleuths went out right away and said, "This is the woman that stalked him." And here she is on Piers Morgan. This is the woman he based the whole case on, the whole show on. There she is. She exists. She comes on Piers Morgan and she says what he says is a pile of lies, and she's suing the crap out of Netflix. Now, do I think everything he said is a lie? Not necessarily. But do I necessarily think all of what he says is true? Again, no. So this woman, who I can't say I particularly liked when I watched her on the show, do I think she might be a pain in the ass? Sure. Do I necessarily think that there's proof that she stalked him to the level he says? I don't have that proof. So what does he say? Okay. So then he goes on and says, he also touches on his experience of being raped and groomed by an older, successful TV writer. Okay. I think the grooming part came before the supposed rape part. So in other words, he fell for the casting couch and drugs and hanging out with this guy who was going to help him in the industry. I don't know that I believe the rape thing either. Now, did he have sex with a guy? Maybe. Did the guy get him like high and then they have sex together and he didn't like I don't know. But I also don't know there's proof of rape, because if you didn't go to the police right away and prove it was rape, I'm sorry, I don't know that I believe your story. So, but everybody's like, "Oh my God, your poor guy was raped." Now, can men get raped? Yes, they can. But I don't have proof in this. Again, I don't have proof. And yet there was a guy that apparently, again, somebody was stated to be the guy that did this, and his life was getting, but everybody's life's getting ruined over what he's done in the show. So during an interview with Piers Morgan, this is the woman, she's a Scottish lawyer named Fiona Harvey. She announced her intention to sue GAD and Netflix, claiming that the show is complete nonsense. She followed through in June 2024 and sued Netflix for $170 million. I'm good with that. I don't even care if she's a partial stalker. Netflix deserves, if they called it a true story and they can't back up every single thing in a court of law, I'm good. Having 170 million is a little extreme, as everything is these days. So anyway, Baby Reindeer took home in September of 2024 6 awards at the 76th annual Primetime Emmys, won 2 Golden Globe Awards. A lot of people ask why a show so dark has gone on to be a success. I think people have been crying out for something that kind of spoke to the painful inconsistencies of being human. That guy's a mess. Basically, he's a freaking mess. He's a failed comedian. He made bad choices all over the place. He's a mess. But people love messes. I've seen this true. People love to see people who are messes because that makes them feel better. Oh, I'm kind of a mess too. Therefore, and I love how you're so honest and open. Blah, blah. That makes me good too. Okay. I think that's a lot of what it is. It's a very, very popular thing. When one is more straightforward and more, that's not so popular. Okay. It isn't. That's why I've seen so many shows with all the gossip and stuff on it that get massive amount of views. It's because people like that kind of stuff because it makes them feel good about being who they are. And maybe the point being here should be, if this guy's a freaking mess, that's something I don't want to be. Maybe if I'm a mess too, I need to find a way to get out of being a freaking mess instead of going, oh, we're all different, just humans, and we just give ourselves excuses for being a wreck. Now he did solve his problem. He made this Netflix show, and he's rich as shit now. So he did solve his problem. Anyway, here's what he says. That's also questionable to me. All right, so he's Danny Dunn is based on Gad, a Scottish comedian who started his career doing stand-up comedy, and then he did this Monkey See, Monkey Do show in Edinburgh, and he got an award for that. The show is based on his experiences of being groomed, raped, and assaulted by an older man who manipulated him in his early career. Okay, whatever. And I'm against the casting couch, but I'm going to say if you get on that casting couch, you're just prostituting yourself. So, maybe it's because you wanted something from this guy that you weren't able to get unless you had sex. I've been in Hollywood. I never submitted to the casting couch. I never got any work either, but that was a choice I made, While the show wasn't necessarily funny, while he's a failed comedian, that's for sure, it moved audiences. The performance led to more success. Then he wrote a one-man play, Baby Reindeer, in 2019. He adapted this into a television series released by Netflix in 2024. So he hit the big time. You know what I mean? Now, the issue about the true story, I want to point this out. Based on real events that happened in Gad's life. In 2015, a woman began stalking Gad. Now, they're saying this as fact. And again, there's no proof of this at this point in time. A woman, except for his statement. So say he claimed a woman had been stalking him. That's how you write a proper thing, People magazine. A woman began stalking Gad. In the show, Gad's character, Donnie, meets the woman, Martha, as he's working at a bar, and she strikes up a conversation with him. So supposedly he offers her a drink on the house, a cup of tea or something. She says that never happened. I don't care if it did happen or didn't happen. It's meaningless. She went on to obtain his email and stalked him for 4 years, calling him Baby Reindeer. Over the course of that time, Gad received 41,071 emails. So she would be, for 4 years, I think it came down to 28 emails a day. Now, can that happen? I have been stalked. I have been stalked by women. I've had women send me emails, quite a few of them. I've had one send me one or two every day for like a year. So that was like 600 emails. I relate to that. I had another woman that she constantly sent me stuff, and then she sent me presents and all kinds of things. I've had that happen. I've been stalked. However, so he says he got 41,000 emails. Now, over 4 years, there are ways to change your freaking email address. If you're being hounded to that level, maybe he was a comedian. Probably he didn't have such a big sphere that he couldn't change his email address. I'm just saying. Now, I was on television, and all the television channels have my email. I might want to keep it. But if I had to, I'd just say, hey, this is my new email, just so she wouldn't have it. But he didn't bother with that. 41,000 emails. How does he know that? I don't know. Does he have something, is able to put her name in the, up on his email list, and it says 41,000 from her? I don't know how he knows that. Did he never block her? Now, there are ways to block people. I don't know. In 2015, I'm going to give him a break just because I can't remember in 2015 whether the block feature was available. I don't know. Then he says Gad received, 41,071 emails, 350 hours of voicemail. Again, you could change at least try, change your phone number, for God's sakes. 744 tweets. You can block tweets. I block tweets all the time. So if you got 744 of them, that's on you. 46 Facebook messages. You can block people on Facebook. and 106 pages of letters from her. You cannot receive the letters. Just don't. So at first, everyone at the pub thought it was funny that I had an admirer. Then she started to invade my life, following me, turning up at my gigs, waiting outside my house, sending thousands of emails and voicemails. Though he went to the police about the situations, they weren't much help. Why? Okay. A lot of times, yes, the police want to have you proof that you're being threatening. The person's being threatening, not just like, hey, you're a great guy. It's not considered threatening. But if you've got 41,000 emails, you can file something against them, to stop them from stalking you. What I wonder is, did he have any of that evidence? Now, this case, she's suing Netflix. I'm looking forward to the evidence that this guy, Gad, is going to provide that she did all of these things. Now, do I believe she might have she said she sent a few emails. And of course, people always downplay. I had a few drinks. I sent a few emails, right? But was she slightly obnoxious is one thing. But was she a true stalker? Now, the reason people found out who she was is because she had supposedly stalked somebody who had hired her for like a week or something. But again, she might have been just a pissed person who, I thought I had this job and you're just being a jerk to me. So she sent a number of emails. Doesn't make her a stalker. It makes her annoying. I mean, there's a difference between the two. Stalking requires a lot more than being annoying. And I've had annoying people around me, and I've been annoying. But there's a difference between that and stalking. So, yeah. So anyway, I don't know if he's got witnesses to all these events he claims that occurred. I question that. I question all of it. Because I don't know that he's taking some incidents in his life and blowing them up because incidents aren't interesting. I have incidents too, but they're not to the level that I can get a show out of. You know what I mean? So, if I blow them up, I might get myself a Netflix show for sure. So let me go to some of your comments. I'll stop on this. But, okay, it says here, Lila says you can keep your number, but get a second. Don't answer the first. They never know you have another number. That's a brilliant idea. I like it now, Lila. That's good. That's good recommendation for sure. I personally, right now, what I have is one of the things I have on my phone number, because it is public, I have it goes, any unknown number goes immediately to voicemail. They can leave a voicemail. But then you can block the number. I block, if a creepo person calls me, or some other solicitor person calls me, I just block them. And they can't call from that number again. That ends that. So there's things you can do. My new collaboration. Yeah, probably not, but all right, could happen, It's like, thank you, Frida. Is it possible he didn't act because unconsciously enjoyed the attention in the actual show, which I actually did not watch all of? So I know I'm going to get people saying, well, if you can't watch the whole show, you can't comment. I didn't like it, so I stopped watching it. But they say, and they show pieces of the show where he does respond to her. He starts having a relationship with her because he does enjoy the attention. I think I personally think he might qualify as having a narcissistic personality disorder himself. And therefore, he loves the attention he gets from everything, whether it's bad or good. And so he enjoys attention. You don't hook up with a stalker. If you ever hook up with a stalker, something's wrong with you too. You need some psychological help. There's ways to deal with stalkers. I'm going to do some more shows on stalking about how to prevent that, because I've dealt with them, and there are very basic ways to just stop it for the most part. But then I have a lot of people who call me and claim they've been stalked. I have more people who've called me claiming they've been stalked than actually I've been stalked myself. They claim they've been stalked for 10 years. They claim they're being followed. There's been voicemails left. They claim all this crap. And I say, no, the police won't believe me. And I said, do you have any proof? Then the police will, no, do you have any proof? But do you have any proof? When you went to the police, did you have proof? And they never have any proof. Why? Because there isn't any. They aren't being stalked. They want the attention. So they call me to tell me they're being stalked so that I will then sympathize with them and want to help them with their fake stalker. I've been through that too many times. So do I trust this guy as really being stalked? No, I do not necessarily. So, and did he do anything to stop it? Did he do anything to truly just block her and everything? I don't know. So I'm waiting for the trial because I don't know that I have enough evidence in any direction until the trial occurs. So I'm looking forward to that. I'll probably do shows on the trial for sure. Yeah. Princess says, I had a woman who cyber stalked me online from Reddit. That's why I don't use my real name on social media. And I do. I personally, I would prefer everybody to be required to use their own name on social media. Why? Because people say too many things with their fake name. And I understand a lot of you guys are using whatever because you don't want to be known who you are. But in reality, I think that we should, if we're going to speak to anybody, we're going to speak out loud, we're going to speak in public, we should use our own names and own up to what we say. And if we don't want people to, we don't feel comfortable with that, we should just not do it. That's my theory. I've never, ever, ever not used my real name. My real name on Twitter, my real name on Facebook, my real name on any show I've ever, everything I've always been, my name is out there. Because I figure if I can't stand up to what I say, I shouldn't do it. And yes, can people stalk you? Sure they can. I mean, it is possible. And that's the problem with social media. So I get your point there. You're afraid of people coming back at you. They will stalk you on places. So yeah, that is a risk. But being stalked on Reddit, just having a person be nasty on Reddit is not really being stalked in real life either. So that's two different things. And again, people are super nasty on. That's why if everybody had used a real name, they wouldn't do it. so that is true. When you've been stalked by your daughter stalked by the ex, terrifying. That is absolutely true. And that's the most dangerous part is actually an ex, because they have that relationship and they want to keep that relationship, and you're taking it away from them. Those are the most dangerous people, are the exes who stalk. Now, there's a few cases where famous people have been killed. John Lennon, I always forget the name of the woman who was an actress, and she got stabbed to death. Guy came from the UK and stabbed her in California. And there was a woman who was attacked in Florida. The people that, and I have been stalked. Haven't been killed yet, but I'm stalked. But nobody, the stalking people have not shown up on my doorstep, shall I say. Only one went into the physical world, and she was a private investigator who went to different police departments that I worked with and claimed she worked with me. That's her version. That was her version of stalking. But nobody yet has come to my door. I have weapons. There are dogs out there. We will get you. That is very true. Christoph, you're correct. Police can do little before something bad happens. Yeah, I mean, that what are they going to do? That's the problem. So one of the most important things in life is having good relationships, not hooking up with psychopaths, obviously. And then if you're in this situation, you definitely have to do things to proactively protect yourself, because you'll be dead before the police get there. And even if they give you that little restraining order, it's a piece of paper that will just either amuse your stalker or piss him off. So kind of useless. Yeah. So, thank you. Rebecca Schaefer. Very good, Frida. Yes, Rebecca Schaefer. So sad. It was a horrible case. And the guy never had been near her before, and she didn't know who the hell the guy was. He just had this fantasy about her and just showed up and stabbed her to death. It's unbelievable. But in his own mind, he was having a relationship with her. And his name, I have forgotten his name, but he wanted his name to be hooked up with her forever. Kind of like the creepy guy was JonBenet Ramsey, who's claimed he killed her. He wanted his picture next to her. And the guy who killed John Lennon wanted his picture next to John Lennon. And it works because you're forever linked in history. So they got what they wanted. Yeah. So very sad. But anyway, I may end up watching that stupid, I don't know if I can make it to Baby Reindeer because it makes me want to throw up. I'm just annoyed by the whole thing. But so many people love it. But yeah. Now, somebody also asked me, they wanted me to talk about this guy. And I had actually interest in a couple requests on this recently. The Malaysia Airlines disappearance in the Indian Ocean. Like, is the guy, the pilot, is he responsible, or it was just an accident, or was it a hijacking? What the hell was it? And I will say this. I don't understand planes. I don't even understand cars. I mean, it's quite frankly outside of my ability to be able to analyze those kind of things and transmissions and all that stuff. If I were hired as a profiler, then I'd have to bring in all these people to analyze all these different things that I am unable to analyze. And then I could then look at the analyses that they came up with and make some determination. However, I will say this. All right. So anyway, this is the, let me find it here. Hold on a second. Hold on. All right. So the story is, this is where the plane went to. He leaves out of Kuala Lumpur. He's supposed to be going to China, and for some freaking reason, he's going that direction. All right. So in this particular story, a month before, let's say, it's kind of a stupid thing here. A month before Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 just vanished over the Indian Ocean, less than an hour into its flight. So it took off, and then it took this turn, and communications went down, and then it crashed in the ocean. Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah made a 45-minute phone call that has puzzled investigators for years. That's a month before. Later revealed that the phone call was between the esteemed Malaysian Airlines pilot and his first cousin and aircraft engineer, Zlami bin Wahidin. Both men had worked for Malaysia Airlines for decades when the Boeing 777 jet with 239 people on board vanished on March 8, 2014 during a routine flight from Kuala Lumpur, and it's the greatest aviation mystery. They have found pieces of it in the Indian Ocean, so it definitely went down, but they don't know what. Okay, so the cousin says the engineer guy says his cousin, the pilot, is innocent, and he lashed out and suggested he had provided the pilot with technical information that would have gained him the ability to hijack the aircraft. I'm not sure why he'd have to give his cousin information how to hijack the aircraft, since he is a pilot of many, many, many years. I'm pretty sure he knows how to hijack his own aircraft. The only problem he really has is the co-pilot. That's the problem, because the co-pilot can stop you from doing whatever you're going to do. So that, or the other possibility is the co-pilot did it and not the pilot, because you would have to incapacitate the person sitting next to you if you're going to do something with the plane you shouldn't be doing, unless both of you are in it together. And I find that fairly hard to believe. So I think if you're going to pick from one of the two that might be involved, if you're not talking about other possibilities, like it was hijacked by hijackers or some other weird thing. There's some really stupid conspiracy theories, like the U.S. or NATO's involved. That's all just nonsense. It makes no sense. So I would say either one of three things. Either was something went wrong with the plane, although the communications went down, which is the most suspicious part. So why the communications down if the plane is still flying till it runs out of gas and then pitches into the sea. Secondly, it would be the pilot involved and incapacitating the co-pilot. Third, it would be actual hijackers. But usually in this hijackers, there's usually something that's happening in the cockpit that gets some information. But it is possible. Hijacker said, we don't want to go to China. We want to go wherever. And then they ran out of gas on the way, and then they pitched it in the ocean. It has some validity to the theory that could make sense. The other thing is, if it's the captain, you would have to think he's going through what would be a midlife crisis, mass murder type of thing. And that's mass murder happens with young people, they're teenagers, early 20s, and with midlife crisis guys who've gotten to this point where they're just disappointed with their lives. Either their marriage is failing, their business is failing, their work is failing, something's failing. But he was still working for the airline, so he was making pretty good money and he was living in a really nice place. I don't know what his relationship with his wife was, but there was this issue. These girls, okay. These girls, he was, let me see if I can find this here. He pilot pestered models. These are the girls that he pestered. It was recently revealed that the married captain sent more than 90 online messages to twin models Lan Shi Hui and Shi Min, begging them to come visit him in Kuala Lumpur. They reported how he plagued the young Instagram model twins, 26 years old, with creepy messages before the plane's mysterious disappearance. They never responded to him, but he sent a lot of sexually suggestive messages. Very creepy. Like he sent, it was creepy stuff. Creepy dude. Anyway, is that enough to say that he was in midlife crisis, was feeling getting older, and he wanted to party, and he wasn't getting responses from the ladies he wanted to get responses from? Was something wrong in his life that he decided at that point in time, screw it. I'm going to take this plane down, and I'm going to take everybody with me. He would have to incapacitate the co-pilot and then just shut down all the communications and just turn the airplane around, just to fly to the point where it just ran out of gas, and he went down to the ocean. The only thing that bothers me about that, because I think it's very possible, because usually, unless you have some proof that there's any hijackers on the plane, it would be him. It would indeed be probably the pilot who did this. And he is the one with what appears to be the midlife crisis thing going on. The only thing I wonder about is, why wait till the gas runs out? Why not just ditch the plane? I mean, you just put it in a dive, and that's it. I mean, you don't have to wait for the gas to run out, unless he was in some kind of mental state where he's like, I don't know, I'm turning this, I'm just going to go. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. Should I crash the plane? Shouldn't I crash the plane? He just kept on until the plane ran out of gas, and he didn't have to make the decision anymore. Those are my only thoughts on this. I mean, I've been asked many times about this case, and I can't get into any great depth because there's no way to do it. But at this point, the only two, and I can't see any kind of, obviously it wasn't just some mechanical failure, because the plane stopped communicating, and then it just kept going and going and going until the gas ran out. So I don't believe in that. So I would have to say it's either the pilot did it, or there were some hijackers on there who just didn't get to their destination. What do I lean toward? I lean toward the pilot, but I don't have enough evidence to actually make a determination. So they allege he wanted a soft landing and as far away as possible. What? A soft landing where? Far away from possible. What? I think I was making up crap because I just don't know. Oh, yeah. It sucks being the co-pilot. It sucks being the flight attendants. It sucks being the passengers. Yeah, what? 10 years ago. Yeah. You don't have to. Oh, okay, you don't need to incapacitate the co-pilot. Just lock him out of the cockpit. Sorry. Yeah, that's reasonable. That's a good thought. Yeah. He could go to the bathroom and you're like, bye. Yeah, good point. Good point. When I say incapacitate, yeah, I don't necessarily mean you had to physically incapacitate him, but you have to prevent him from being able to do anything. But your point is well taken, because you could do that, definitely, for sure. Okay, it says here, it's actually 10 years ago, the suicide co-pilot locked the cabin from the inside while the pilot was in the toilet. How do we know it was the co-pilot? I'm just curious I mean, if I had to pick one, I'd pick the pilot, because he had more issues going on. I'm curious how you come up with the co-pilot. I mean, the same thing could happen. I mean, it could be the co-pilot. Same thing. He could have I mean, that's the thing. I don't think we'll ever know. There's just no way to know. So, yeah, I mean, it could happen. I don't think there's any information that says who was involved, who did it. Again, it could be a hijacker. It could be that too. So there's no way we're going to know if it's a co-pilot, the pilot, or a hijacker. We're just not going to ever know. But when I look at some of the behaviors, the fact that also the pilot had this in-house training thing, just a little weird. I mean, I don't know. The stuff I've read about the pilot comes off a little bit concerning to me, but it doesn't prove anything. So, which is why I won't do a whole show on it, because I have no clue. Oh my God. I think the crew was able to contact ATC. I thought nobody heard from them at all. So maybe I'm missing something here. There was shouting recorded. I have not seen that. I looked around. I didn't see any information on that at all. So they're saying that. I did not see that. Tell me what. Okay. Voice recorder was found, and when he was on the toilet, the altitude was lowered in the black box. I did not see that. I looked in a bunch of stories, so it must be all crappy stories I read. Yeah, well, I say somebody did something. But John, now you're saying it's the co-pilot? Interesting. I mean, I don't know who to believe. Honestly, I don't. Germanwings. Oh, you're talking about Germanwings. I'm so confused now. Oh, okay. I don't know anything about that case at all. That's the problem with comments. I thought you were talking about the Malaysian one. I'm like, really? Because I thought there were no communications at all. Oh, thank you. Like, I don't even know about the Germanwings one. So that's a whole different one. But yeah, I mean, at least they have more information on that one. But the Malaysian one, the reason the Malaysian one remains a huge mystery is because the information doesn't exist at all. So thank you for confusing me, guys. Okay. Somebody asked me to mention this creature, this woman, Susan Wright. She's out of prison now, and the question is her self-defense a good explanation for why she stabbed her husband 193 times before burying him in the yard? Wait, I gotta read that again. Claims self-defense when she stabbed her husband 193 times before burying him in the yard. She's a great gal. Yeah. Okay, so Susan here, let me find it. Susan Wright. She is released from prison. And I've always pointed out how women get away with a lot more kind of homicidal stuff with some excuse that they were abused or they, or fear of their life, whatever. She spent 16 years behind bars for stabbing him that many times. Okay. 5 months after she was granted parole, she was formally released from prison in Texas. And she spent 16 years there for the 2003 murder of her husband. Now, she says the ABC 13 caught up with Susan at home the first day of her freezing where she requested privacy. Please don't do this to my family. Didn't you just stab your two kids? Didn't you stab your two kids' daddy to death and bury him in the backyard and go to prison for years? But you don't want somebody else to upset your family? Have a heart, she says. I'm sorry. I'm like, oh my God. To me, this might be the evidence that she's a psychopath, that she wasn't abused to this point where she had to commit this crime. That she actually can say this appalls me. So she said, no, don't do this to my family, blah, blah, blah. Okay. From the outside, Susan and Jeff looked like a happy young couple, attractive with two young children. The son was 4 years old. The baby girl was just 18 months old. She was, by the way, when they met, apparently she was a topless dancer. As I always say, topless dancers, strippers, generally speaking, that involves prostitution. Not everyone, but for a great deal of the time, because there's a lot of outside activity. Does that make her a psychopath because she's a topless dancer? No. What kind of guy is he? He's a John, essentially. He comes in there to pay women to watch naked women and probably get a little on the side. Anyway, so, I'm sorry. I forgot to turn that off. Hold on a second. Oh. Hold on a second. What? Hold on a second. One more second. I got a little family emergency here. Done at. Oh, I could do that. Okay. I don't know. Something happened to my family I didn't even know about. I got to pick up my granddaughter after the show. But luckily, I'll finish the show in time. Okay, hold on a sec. All right. So, just because you're a stripper or you're a prostitute or you're whatever you are, and you're a dude who's a John, essentially. Doesn't make either one of you a psychopath. Doesn't make you necessarily bad people. And it's nothing wrong with two people hooking up and she says, hey, I'm tired of this business. I'd love to be married and have kitties. And he's like, yeah, you know, I'm not holding it against you because hey, I did pay the money to go see you, so, or be with you. And hey, I like you so much. Let's just start a new life together. I think that's cool and wonderful because everybody deserves that, a chance to change their life. I'm good with that. However, in this particular case, one does wonder. All right. She was 26 at the time, and her naked 34-year-old husband, she tied him to a bed with neckties and stabbed him almost 200 times with 2 different knives. Now, here I want to stop right here and say the most important thing in life. Never, never allow anybody to tie you to a bed with neckties, with handcuffs, whatever the hell it is. Do not let people put you in a situation where you cannot, therefore, protect yourself. Especially when you're with a really sketchy person, which apparently, or if you've been, now she claims he was abusing her. If you abuse your wife and then you let her tie you to a bed, you're a moron. Maybe you deserve what you get. If you didn't abuse your wife, but you're with a psychopath who ties you to a bed and then stabs you to death, you're also not too bright. Don't let people tie you up because you don't have a chance once they've done that. So anyway, she tied him up and stabbed him almost 200 times with 2 different knives. 7 of those stab wounds were in the groin area. Afterwards, she tied his body to a dolly and dragged him out to the backyard to bury him under potting soil in a hole in the yard that he had dug for a fountain. He dug his own grave, man. That sucks. 2 days later, Susan made a domestic abuse report. He's abusing her after he died. Within a week, she had turned herself in because she's basically, potting soil is not the best thing to put over your dead husband. I'm just going to say. She turned herself in, and an attorney revealed her defense because after she turned herself in, she said, I screwed up. I stabbed my husband 200 times. He's like, oh, we better come up with something. The deadly attack was self-defense after years of beatings at the hand of her husband. They've been married 4 years. Okay, if your husband has been beating you for years, you should have gotten the hell out of there. Get your kids out of there before he beats them too. So do I believe that he was beating her? I don't know. But she never went to the police. She never filed a domestic abuse report before she killed him. The 2004 trial included dramatic moments, most notably a reenactment from the prosecution on top of the bloody mattress in the courtroom, Susan testifying on the stand in tears. Okay, I'm just checking. Okay, all right, I'm picking up my granddaughter. I'm just checking on the things I got to do. The jury didn't buy it. She was convicted of murder and sentenced to 25 years in prison. 25 years. That's premeditated homicide. I don't know why she didn't get life. She tied him to a bed and then stabbed him that many times. She was denied parole twice. Oh, the second time she got a new sentencing hearing, and they shaved off 5 years because her counsel was ineffective. You know, one of the most important things if you're going to be guilty of something is get an ineffective counsel, because ineffective counsel will get you a new trial. So they shaved 5 years off. Now she's only got 20 years. She was denied parole twice, but she was granted in 2020. Providing she complete a 3-month program. What was the 3-month? Oh, it was an anger management program. That's right. It was an anger management. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So yeah, she's got to continue with anger management counseling and wear a GPS monitor until 2024. So I guess last year she's free. I don't know. I didn't check further into the story. Okay, she's 44 now. The couple's children have been raised by Jeff's family, who probably want her nowhere near them. Her family says, I think she paid her debt to society and deserves a second chance. Okay, let's tie her to a bed and see how that works out. Anyway, unbelievable. The concept that a woman has the right to kill a man while he's asleep, while he's tied up, because supposedly he abused her, is concerning to me. If somebody's being abused, that's horrifying. That is true. And in my opinion, you must do what you have to do, which is leave whatever you've got to do. Does it mean you're going to be safe if you leave and he's not going to come after you? No, it doesn't. But on the other hand, once you can incapacitate a person, or they are incapacitated by sleep or drugs or whatever, that is not self-defense. That is simply cold-blooded murder. Even if even if you think he deserves every bit of it, even if you say, oh, if I leave, he'll kill me, therefore I must kill him. Oh, that's the Menendez brothers again. If we didn't kill our parents, they would have come to kill us. Get out of here. We got to stop this. It's not an acceptable reason for cold-blooded murder. It's not. Sorry. If you pick the wrong person, you're in a shabby situation. Sorry. You still can't do that. I mean, that's why we have laws like that say you can't do that. So I think she should have been in prison for life. That was my opinion, but now she's free. And there was some ex-wife that came along and said he was abusive toward her. And again, unless there's proof of that, unless that's proof, police reports and stuff, you got to watch out for ex-wives rolling out of the woodwork saying, oh yeah, he did it to me too. Because sometimes they want attention, and sometimes they want to get back at their husband for whatever reason. Maybe I don't know the whole story here because this is a hangout, not a full show. Could he? No, maybe he was already cheating on the other wife with other women, and now she can't wait to get back at him. And she's like, hey, that other woman, she killed him. Cool. So these kind of things are not necessarily proof of anything. So people got to say, oh, with the ex-wife. I'm an ex-wife. I have things I could say. Would they all be true? Or would it just be a nice way to get back? Yeah, this is correct. Vigilantism is not permitted in any constitutional state. Right. Much as you'd like it, much as you wish you could do it, that should not be acceptable. And that's the same thing with Luigi Manion. He was a vigilante thing, supposedly. Oh, which, by the way, people... Sandra Melger, yeah. That's the other. I did that case already, yeah. Was she inspired? The Jehovah's Witness couple celebrating the 32nd anniversary when she threw the knife in the hot tub. Yes, I did a show on that. I did the Sandra Melger case. I think she's guilty. I do not think this claim she had that somebody came in and did that is nonsense. Yeah. See, now, if you're going to commit a crime, you got to pick the right things. Always make sure you make a really nice patio. Oh, my God. Make a nice patio. But, wait, hold on a second. The same pot. Oh, Pretty Woman. Yeah. There's no, as far as prostitutes changing their lives, there's a lot of lovely films where a woman who has had a tough life, maybe she's gotten involved in prostitution, either on her because she wants to, because she thinks it's fun and all that, or because she doesn't have a choice. And she meets somebody, and she thinks, okay, I don't need to do this anymore. I could have a different life, and I think that's grand. I don't have any objection to that at all. I mean, people change their lives. There are people who make poor choices or are forced into certain lifestyles. And if they can leave those lifestyles, that's great. That's absolutely great. I just wish people stop lying about the stuff. You know what I mean? There's just a lot of lies that go around. And all the OnlyFans thing, making that something cool, is not okay. It's not cool. And it's horrifying. And prostitution has never been a good thing. But so if a woman can leave prostitution, or a man can leave prostitution, leave pornography, I am totally for that. And if they have a lovely life ever after, fabulous. They deserve, if they can get out of there and then live a good life, they deserve to be able to do so. So yeah, I'm okay with all of that. I want to mention Luigi Manion because where is Luigi? Where's this character? Yeah, there's Luigi. There have been people, because he's up for a death penalty, they said, oh, you can't give him the death penalty, it's cruel. And I'm like, didn't he give the death penalty to the guy he shot? I've always said that. Killers believe in the death penalty. They're perfectly happy to give somebody the death penalty without any probable cause, without any charges, without any evidence, and without a jury trial. They erase all of that and say, I have the right to just simply shoot them down and kill them. So I think if a killer believes in the death penalty, we should honor his belief. Anyway, that's just a quick comment on that, just because it annoys me when people go, oh, it's... Now, if you want to get rid of the death penalty for not because it's unfair to the killer, but because it's not good for society, or there's some issues about how the death penalty is meted out and all that kind of stuff, where it's once you've done it, you can't retract it in case you find out the guy's innocent. I get all of that. That's a different issue than, does the guy deserve to die? And if you got a serial killer, I'm going to say he damn well deserves a death penalty. And Luigi Manion, he only killed one guy, but maybe he deserves it too. It's not, he believed in it. So if he believes in it, and I'm okay with following through with his own belief system. I want to mention this guy because I keep moving this, and I don't want to move it one more time because it's getting on my nerves that I keep not getting to this one little teeny story. It's a teeny story, but it makes me laugh. Richard Snyder. This guy, he had jury duty because we were talking about jury duty, right? Let me find this story. He's in Petersburg, New York. He attempted to get out of grand jury duty, and it went awry. So what happened with this guy? It's pretty funny. Here we go. A judge tries to get out of jury duty, and it cost him his job. Why? He was a town justice in upstate New York. Said he could not serve as an impartial grand juror because he believed anyone appearing before him was guilty. He'd make a great judge. Everybody appearing before him is guilty. So he was running to be town justice in the tiny thing. He told a local news station he would be fair and honest on the bench. So he would be fair and honest on the bench. Because he was not a lawyer, he also said he was looking forward to learning about the law, which apparently he doesn't know much about. He just learned something the hard way. So anyway, he said he should get out of jury duty because he said, I know they are guilty. Otherwise, they would not be in front of me. He's not a bright character. So anyway, apparently he's no longer going to be judge, So he I don't know if he could get out of jury duty. I don't know if he got out of jury duty. He was earning $6,000 a year to hear cases on the second and fourth Tuesday of the month. He had no previous disciplinary history. He decided minor cases. Okay, whatever. It's just funny. What an idiot. What an absolute idiot. Let's see. Something else I want. What was that? Why do I have that here? I do not know. Oh, I got to mention this one because there's an update here on the Emile case, and it's really bizarre. I mean, they've arrested the grandparents and a couple other family members of Emile Soleil, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I do not know. But this is really weird. Okay. It's coming from the Sun, so that's a little questionable. Tragic Emile Soleil's body was, quote, kept in a freezer, top cop suggests. Oh, I love it when top cops suggest. In another shock update after grandparents are arrested. Now, the hunt for answers over the 2-year-old's mysterious death continues. Now, what happened? This occurred in the French Alps. It was this town in the French Alps. And this is the house of the grandparents. And now this is where it gets weird. The grandparents is the red dot above. And the witnesses say they saw the boy walking down the street the day he went missing, the dot below. Okay. Latot was staying at his grandparents' isolated holiday home in Grenoble, south of Grenoble. His remains, including a fractured skull, were found nearby on March 2024 following desperate daily searches. Based on the decomposition of the remains, French detectives believe the remains of little Emile's body were likely preserved in a protected environment like a freezer. Okay. So, public prosecutor Jean-Luc Blachon confirmed that Emile's body didn't decompose in the clothes he was found in. Okay. What? He didn't decompose in the clothes he was found in. Okay, I got to stop right here. What does that tell you, by the way? That's weird. What strikes you as odd in that statement? Somebody. They redressed him. They redressed him. Thank you, Martina. If he was kept in a freezer, they should have found him. Well, no, not. Yeah, you kind of wonder too, because didn't they do what freezer where is a good question. That's a good point. You look in a freezer when you're searching for a child. Yeah, I would look in there. Yes, that's true. He did decompose. One would think he could decompose. He wasn't frozen. Well, not at the time he was found. He wasn't frozen. Depends on when he was frozen. Here's my thing. Okay, think about this. He only recently was put out there. They're claiming. So I put the baby boy's body in a freezer. And after a couple of years, I'm like, because mind you, when you freeze a body, the clothes freeze to the body. I mean, at least in my experience. But so you have a body with the clothes are sort of frozen onto it. Do you freeze the body and then take the clothes off and then replace the clothes? Why would you do that? I mean, why would you readjust a frozen body at all? If you're going to just put the body someplace, finally, after a couple of years, you're just going to go run out and dump the body, wouldn't you? Why in God's earth would you redress the body? I mean, first of all, you want the child to be found in the clothes he went missing in, wouldn't you? Theoretically, supposedly he went missing. So you'd want him to be found in those clothes. You wouldn't want him to be found in completely different clothing. What the hell? Because then you'd say, where was he being kept? Captive someplace. This makes like zero sense to me. I just don't even understand it. I mean, that to me is just weird and makes zero sense. Okay, let's see what else they have to say. Sorry, my iPad just shut down on me. Come back. By the way, I was mentioning I need to buy a new iPad. And I just have to bite the bullet and just buy a new one. It's not that I'm that cheap. It's just I can't find the correct iPad because let's show you something. This is my iPad. You see this? See this like nice? I have this. It's called a Pro Case. Also, Zag puts them out, and it's great because you can type on it and you can close it up and it keeps it nice and protected. But you can also you can put it on your bed. You can't find these cases in any other size but the size that this iPad comes in. So all the new iPads are too big. Like they made them like this much bigger so they don't fit. It's like, why would you do that? I can't get a proper case for it. Can't find anything new that works. Same thing. I had a problem with my phone. I'm going to go check now to see if I think they have the size again. But when I was going to get a new phone a while back, all the phones were bigger, and I have these really little hands, and I can't hold on to those big ass phones. So I'm like, I want this size, and they didn't have them. So then I didn't get a new phone. So there's more reasons behind money. Okay, let me go back to this now that it's back here. Okay, so so he says that his body didn't decompose in the clothes he was found in, and that his remains were moved before a local found them in the forest. It is believed his remains were moved just before the officials discovered them. So he's someplace for like 2 years in a freezer. He said, these elements allow us to consider that the body did not remain in the same place and in the same biotope as during the decomposition process. He also said, investigation on Emile's skull found he suffered violent facial trauma. Now, again, depending on how long he's been out there, his face could be eaten by like raccoons and stuff, so the bones and crunch, this now introduces the probability of the intervention of a third party. What third party are we talking about? Now, in my opinion, now supposedly the grandparents who were the grandparent that apparently wasn't paying much attention to him and let him wander around, which was not being very good with taking care of your grandchild. Although he did raise 10 kids who didn't die. So, and here he is with a grandchild, and they say all kinds of nasty things about him that, he once was working was going to be a priest, and then he was caught up in some stuff at wherever he was at that had child abuse and maybe sex abuse. And then he ended up getting married. And they say he's very, very right wing, and they bring into politics, which I don't think has a thing to do with. I don't care what your politics are. Killing children has nothing to do with your politics. So that's stupid. But the other thing that bugs me is, and I wonder about this. because this thing here where people did see him, supposedly 2 people saw him walking down the street the day he went missing. So why couldn't somebody else have caught the kid and kept him in captivity or put them in their freezer? I mean, theoretically, somebody else besides the grandparents could. But anyway, the grandparents, both 59 years old, were quizzed by cops for 17 hours. They were arrested in dawn raids along with 2 of their adult children, not the parents of their child. His aunt, but Emile's aunt and uncle. They all faced charges of all of them faced charges of intentional homicide and concealing a corpse. So now they're saying all 4 of them were involved in killing Emile and putting his body in a freezer. What? I just don't know. Unless, I mean, I don't know if they're trying to infer that all 4 of them are like creepy child perverts or something. This is the weirdest story I've ever heard. And I don't understand what they've got on the people and what makes any damn sense, because that doesn't make any sense to me as a profiler. It's just not ringing right. Well, you don't have to like them. He's not a particularly apparently doesn't seem to be a likable fellow. At least that's what is being presented by the press, that they don't like his politics, that he might have been involved in creepy stuff when he was almost a priest. But it says here, the granddad admitted to 15 minutes of inattention before the child vanished. So, but again, sometimes people admit things that aren't true. Just in other words, it's better for me to admit that I wasn't paying attention and the child wandered away than I actually killed the child. I mean, that's one reason you say those things. However, a source close to the investigation said that 2 witnesses confirmed they saw the child walking alone at the time of his disappearance, and they are reliable people who they trust completely. Again, that's where I supposedly seen walking around. Now, why they would see a 2-year-old child wandering down the street and not do anything about it, they have another question, right? And then the other thing was a shocking twist was when Father Claude Guillot, who baptized a 2-year-old, allegedly died by suicide, leaving a chilling suicide note. That was a few days ago. He left that. He took a massive overdose. And supposedly it had something to do with a falling out with the grandparents, and that maybe he had heard some terrible confession. Who the hell knows? But regardless of the, quote, family's dark past or their politics or any of this other stuff, whether you like them or don't like them, Granddad did raise 10 kids and they all grew up. So why would he kill this child? Why would 4 people kill this child? Now, the most likely reason is the child was a pain in the butt and the grandfather got angry and hit him and he fell and smashed his head open, something like that. I mean, most of the time when young children get killed, it's because somebody, usually a boyfriend or whatever, somebody taking care of that kid gets driven nuts by the kid crying and they become angry and they go into a rage and they push them or hit them and accidentally kill them. Sometimes they beat them to death. I mean, so sometimes it's even worse than that. And sometimes there is sexual abuse, but I don't know that there's any proof of these things at this point in time, and why 4 people would be involved in killing the child and 4 people would be involved in keeping the child in a freezer and then changing his clothing before they decided to dump his body after 2 years makes 0 sense to me. So yeah, it is a wild story. So I'm going to have to say, no Satanism again. No. I think we just, again, I will have to wait and see what more there is any kind of information that makes enough sense that I could come to a proper analysis of anything, because I just can't come up with any. Oh, by the way, if you're still here, I want to mention again that I do have a second channel now called Dear Profiler Pat. This is my recent one, How Do I Pick a Hotel? Somebody asked me about that when I travel. I did this one, How to Stay Safe While Traveling. And so I just did this one. So I do, most of mine are actually about issues like relationship issues and life issues. Should I go to my high school reunion? How do I get over someone or something? And I do have a little travel section because people like to hear about travel advice because I travel a lot in my life. So by the way, in case you're wondering, my channel should be monetized. I can apply probably tomorrow for monetizing. I am literally 6 hours of, people have to watch 6 more hours of my channel for me to be able to get monetized. I have over 1,000 people, which I need to get monetized, and have to have 4,000 watch hours. I'm finally hitting that after 5 months and like 50 videos. It's not easy like all people think it is. It's like, oh, I just put up my Tanlin. No, it's like you work for a really long time and you hope to get eventually monetized so that you can support the channel that you've been doing for months on end. But hey, almost there. So I'll see how it all goes from that point on. But I have enjoyed doing the channel regardless. It's fun. I love getting the questions, and I'm bossy. I like to answer them. Let's see. Is there anything else I want to talk? No, I'm going to save that one probably. So I'm looking at my time here. Yeah, I'm trying to catch up with the ones that I. Oh, okay. I'm going to do this one. This will be my last one, I think. So this couple, this is interesting. This couple is an American couple who is in jail right now in Mexico. They were arrested. And why were they arrested? Well, they were arrested and hauled to a Mexican prison in dispute over a corrupt with Cancun timeshare. So they got this timeshare in Cancun, Mexico. An American couple's vacation turned into a nightmare when they were arrested in Mexico and hauled to prison over a financial dispute with a Cancun timeshare. Paul and Christy Akeo were taken into custody as soon as they stepped off the plane from Michigan on March 4th. Christy's daughter, Lindsay, said the couple are being held captive because they challenged wrongful credit card charges made by the Palace Company, also Palace Resorts. This all happened supposedly back in 2021. The duo allegedly bought membership rights with a hotel chain, which guaranteed them preferential rates, but that by the end of 2022, they had lodged 13 disputes with Amex about charges they had placed on their card. The last 21 days of torture my parents have been through is direct response of their corruption, the Palace Corporation's corruption, extortion, retaliation, and blackmail. And so they were apparently supposedly wanted by Interpol. Why does Interpol want them? That's an interesting point. They have since been charged with defrauding the Cancun hotel chain out of more than $100,000, and the judge ordered them to remain in custody during the duration of the court proceedings. So she says all that media reports, daughter says all the media reports are false. And then she has some funny things to say here. Lindsay said her mother has shed 25 pounds in prison in just 20 days. I'm going to guarantee you, you cannot shed 25 pounds in 20 days. Since I did a 20-day fast, I can tell you I lost 10 pounds. And that was on zero food, 100% water. Get out of here, you're full of crap. And they said she lost 25 pounds in 20 days because authorities continued to offer food they know she is allergic to. And she developed a severe rash. What is she allergic to? When they give her food, you're telling me that there's not something in that food she can't eat. Usually, if you're in Mexico, you're going to get rice, beans, tortillas, maybe some chicken, maybe some beef, and maybe some tacos. Seriously, you're allergic to every one of those things? You can't just push whatever it is you're supposedly allergic to at the side of the plate and eat the rest of the stuff. Sounds pretty normal food to me, because that's what they would serve. Garbage. Anyway, so they're trying to get U.S. officials to bring the citizens home and how they're all this crap. Well, is it true that so they had this thing and they supposedly are fighting this place over and over again, and yet they still go down to Mexico and get off the plane? People are saying, well, you should know better than go to Mexico. And do I think that sometimes Mexico has corruption? Sure. But I've traveled to Mexico over and over again. Nobody's been arresting me. Why? Because I don't commit crimes, generally speaking. So this is something she wrote. Christy Akeo. This is the wife of the one of them is in prison. She says this: anyone who is trying to get out of their membership and are hesitant, please read featured post pinned at the top of the group. I have helped thousands of members with this without any negative impacts to your credit. If you need help, let me know. So she's trying to help people get out of their obligations. Now, do I like timeshares? No. Do I think you can get suckered into them and hard time getting out? Sure thing. But that's why you don't get timeshares. I'm very careful. But then this is what I think is fascinating. She wrote this: first and foremost, report any and all credit card, whatever, for monthly payments as lost or stolen. Also, any credit cards you may have used at the resort, report them as stolen, because they will try to charge any card that you have from you for your monthly payment. Then just quit making your monthly payment. They will harass you for a few months and make the phone calls and stuff, but then after 3 or 4 months, they'll stop doing that. She's telling people not to pay their bills. And she's telling them to make a false claim that they were lost or stolen so that they can't pay, they don't have to pay their bills. That they can claim that all the bills, that anything that's been charged to them has been erroneously charged to them because somebody stole their credit card. She's telling people to lie. I'm sorry, lady. Once you tell people to lie, I don't trust everything else you say. Maybe that resort is correct. There's a whole story about how the amount of stuff that they were actually doing, really complicated. They were selling off their stuff to tons of people and doing all kinds of stuff. I mean, I'm trying to see if I can find the, give you an idea of what they actually were doing. It was okay, here we go. Maybe this was the place where maybe the truth was at. Let's see what this says here. Nope, not that one. Hold on. Must be the next one. It's sometimes very hard to find information that you'd like to find because it's just, okay. So here we go. Let's see. Hold on. Things are taking a while to load. Apparently, a lot of the comments that I've seen people give, they're like, yeah, these people are crooks. Like the couple. They're not really going for what they say. Okay. So there was a contract. Hold on a second. Load. Stupid thing. By the way, I found out that they're trying to load the Daily Mail. It turns out that you can do it on your phone. You can press this little thing on the corner, AA, and you can get everything without any of the advertising, and it loads really quick. But if you do it on your iPad, it doesn't work. So, but I have it up here on the iPad right now. All right, it says here, according to the resort, she and Paul made a total of 1,570 bookings during the course of the membership, which was last upgraded in 2021. But when they weren't using the resort, they would advertise the room out on social media channels, primarily Facebook, offering all-inclusive food and drink packages, manicures and massages, as well as the accommodations. Christy claimed, her relationship went south in Palace because she and Paul successfully referred so many members that they amassed a huge amount of free week-long stays, which they use as incentive for members to lure in new clients. So they started. They said that the couple was doing things that were not quite right. So they started canceling their upcoming bookings, and then let's see here. It's very complicated. I don't know all the details here, but when she started lying, telling people to lie, I will say I don't trust her. And she met much as I think timeshares can be scumbags and horrible places, you shouldn't deal with them. Maybe these people sound like they were running a business. I mean, if they made 1,600, let's see, they got 1,600 bookings. This is not I want to go down to Cancun and get my 2 weeks a year type of thing. They're making massive amount of bookings. I'm going to say if you're going to do that much work, you're also making a lot of money off of it. So I don't know. I think they're squirrely, and I think that I don't know why Interpol's involved. So again, this is going to be one of these things. We're not going to have to see how it all plays out, but I thought it was kind of interesting. It's like, wow. So tacos sound good right now, don't they? Well, Mexican prisons aren't fun. I mean, it's not, don't get locked up. I mean, that's, and if you're going to do something questionable in a country that is not even your country, and then you're stupid enough to fly down there and get off the plane, what can I say? I've never had any trouble in Mexico. I don't do anything wrong. I don't deal drugs. I don't buy drugs. I don't sell drugs. I don't do anything with drugs. I act appropriately, and I've never had a problem in Mexico ever. And that woman that and her friends, who the North Carolinians, the ones who went down to the border, and she was getting a tummy tuck, and she ended up being kidnapped and blah blah blah. Yeah, everybody around her was a drug dealer, and her husband was a drug dealer, and everybody's in prison. So I'm going to say she didn't go down there for a tummy tuck unless she was tucking something into that tummy. So Oh, one more thing before I go. One more thing. I just want to mention this, just because it's kind of just sad. It is yeah. This is Jennifer Kesse. And this is her dad. And I found this sad in the sense that, let me find it here. Okay. Dad has new hope that somehow they're going to find out who took his daughter. What is the new hope? Okay. Hold on a second. It's Daily Mail trying to load again. Let me see if I can do it out. Oh, there we go. Shares new hope. His missing daughter was found after the cops give an update in the case. 19 years after she disappeared, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement has launched a new tip line, hoping to generate fresh leads in the long unsolved case. He's hoping that the smallest piece of information would lead to finding his daughter. We have been fielding leads for 19 years, to be quite honest with you, and we still get them on a weekly basis. It's quite incredible. 19 years, you've gotten 99.99% garbage tips. It's sad. Because people call in because they're psychics. Oh, I know what Jennifer is. They call in because they want to pin their disappearance on their boyfriend. There's only going to be, in reality, maybe a tip or two that could be true. Everybody says, oh, somebody knows. Most of the time, somebody doesn't know anything. I don't know why people always say somebody knows something. They don't. Many serial killers, their own wives don't know what they're doing. In other words, they grab a girl, they rape her, they murder her, they dump her someplace, and they go home for dinner. Nobody has a clue. So nobody knows anything. And in a case which looks like this is also that kind of a case. The chances of anybody knowing anything is extremely small. And to think that you've had 19 years of garbage tips and you think that there was something is sad. But families are like that. Well, we're getting all these tips, and no, it's a bunch of wasted time. Sadly, if one is correct, it would be useful. But so of course you always hope you're going to get the one that's correct. The FDLE's initiative aims to direct information straight to law enforcement rather than the family. So, okay, so now they're going to have tips go to them. It's weird. It took 19 years, but I think it's a smart deal to give people the opportunity to speak up in any way, shape, or manner that they can. Well, yeah, but it's just, yeah. So there's no new hope. There's no new anything. Yes. Okay. So they open up a tip line. Maybe after 19 years, somebody will rat somebody out. That's what they're hoping. And I'm not objecting to that. That's fine. That's a good thing. You should always have some way for people to maybe this is what would happen. The guy's dead, and the wifey is looking through her husband's effects, and she's like, "Wow, doesn't this belong to Jennifer Kesse?" And then she calls the police. So I'm all for always having an open tip line, but just understand that when you get hundreds and hundreds of tips, the majority of them are just total garbage. And it's just sad. The fact that people would even waste the time of the police and the family calling in when they don't know anything. It's sickening. It's absolutely sickening. And if you're a psychic who's doing that, you're sickening too. I have no tolerance for that, because it just interferes with the case and wastes people's time. So yeah, it's a shame. Princess says, I'd love to see this case, Jennifer Kesse, solved though. Sadly, it may have been an immigrant, maybe. Hard to say. I did a little bit on that case. But yeah, they have that one photo of somebody walking by, and I don't even know that guy had anything to do with their disappearance. So it's like, it's not even proven. You can't see anything from that picture. So it's meaningless, except for that the person was in white, which could be that he's a painter. It could be that, I pointed out that the car was found near a pizza parlor. Nobody's ever mentioned the possibility could be working at that pizza parlor, wearing those kind of clothes, because the car was dumped in a an apartment complex, which I didn't see any good reason to dump it there unless maybe you work nearby. So there was a pizza parlor right diagonally across the way. So my suggestion is maybe it was a guy from a pizza parlor, and he had to, because what happens sometimes is you kidnap somebody, you go do whatever, but then you got to get to work. You got to show up on work on time, and you want to show up at work on time because you don't want to be a suspect. So what you do is you drive the vehicle to something close to where you work, where you can just pull in and nobody's going to pay much attention because there's lots of cars and lots of people. And maybe even people will think that the killer is actually in that apartment complex. And then you walk over to work. Well, what was closest was a pizza parlor where you might be wearing white clothes when you're making the pizzas. So that's my top theory. But whether it'll ever pan out to be true that there was a guy from the pizza parlor who killed her, I don't know. But anyway, okay, that's it. I'm going to go get my granddaughter since I've been enlisted to do that. So thank you for being here today. I appreciate you always being in the chat room. Again, if you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe. Check out my other channel as well, Dear Profiler Pat. All will be listed below. And I'll be back on the weekend with the case show, whatever it will be. I don't think it's going to be Baby Reindeer because I still have to decide if I can make myself even watch that. But I'm looking forward to the trial on that. I really want to know what the evidence is. Probably before I want to know the evidence before I do anything on that because, I don't have a lot to say about the stalking thing because it's so weird, the stalking thing, and that he has sympathy for her. And he's like, oh, she's mentally disturbed, so I have sympathy. If she's a stalker to that degree, that girl's a psychopath. And if she's a psychopath, you don't have to have any. You shouldn't be feeling sorry for her. She's a psychopath, and she's made your life hell. Oh, but she's got a she's mentally ill. She's a psychopath then. So I feel sorry for everybody that's abused me is kind of nauseating. So I just don't believe him. I don't. I think he may have a personality disorder as well, and he's just made a mint. I mean, if people love the show, he's obviously a good actor. He's probably a better actor than he ever was a comedian. And actors often are good at faking stuff. So I don't buy his story. We shall see. So I hope all is well. I hope all. As far as I know, I just got to do a pickup. So I'll go grab my granddaughter. Thank you guys. Glad you all were here. It's always nice for you to be here in the chat room. So I have friends here. It's great. Thank you, Christoph. I appreciate that. Bye-bye, everybody. Oh, you like the pizza parlor theory? Yeah, it's a theory. It's the closest thing I can come to that makes any sense. But I haven't been hired to work on the case. I haven't heard anything from the family. I mean, one of the things that's advantage when I put videos out there is the video is out there for the family to see as well. I've had some responses from certain families who have seen videos I've done on their loved one's case, and they're happy that I've put out some information that might be useful. And it's available to the police as well. But my point of doing the channel, as I always say, I'm not here to solve cases. I'm here to share how to analyze cases. So that's my purpose. So yeah. Anyway, thank you for being here, and I will see you guys hopefully soon. I can't even see today. I'm trying to find the little box that says bye. Just bye.